he tells the story. I remember the first time I saw him speak about the Cheerios on the high
Oh, yeah.
chair and a spoon, and it's like, he has one finger, and he like, how are you going to use a spoon, or how are you going to eat these Cheerios? Like, how is he going to pick it up? And when he told the audience that story, it was an intimate crowd. I immediately thought to myself, like, the how I pictured in my mind was you and Michael, like, leaving the room and like peeking around a corner and like watching how he was going to do it, and like maybe even like crying a little bit. It's like, oh my god, I hope this kid can figure this shit out. Like, or like that's the way, like, my mind like made up this whole sitcom scene in my mind,
Okay.
like watching this play out. So if you could give me, I could let my imagination stay where it
Okay.
is, but I would really love the context of like, how did situations like that unfold, where you give them some Cheerios and a spoon and a high chair and say, all right, you're going to learn how to, feed yourself right now. And you have one finger. Like, like, I'm just so interested in how you parent that
Okay.
behavior.
There was a little more that happened before that.
Please. All
He
right.
just likes to go for that shock factor.
That's good.
Um,
It got me.
we're used to it. Um, we went to PT and OT with him when he was a little boy, and at one point they were trying to teach these little people fine motor skills, and they would use finger foods to do that. I would always have to feed it to Nick, and I asked them if they could come up with something that would like give him like a thumb, like for the pincer reflex, right? Or if that's what it's called. And they were like, "Oh no, you have to wait till he's older." And I remember driving home going, "Oh no, no, that's not a good answer." And I actually wrote about it. I ripped apart a junk drawer, and I found one of the kids' kazoos, and it happened to be like the right length and width that I could strap on Nick's little hand, and then he could. And I taught him that, how to slide and pick things up, and from there, we were able to create a spoon that could Velcro around where he could eat. But we did have Cheerios, and he figured out that if he didn't use the Cheerios, lift his finger and 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 stuck it on the Cheerio, it was a lot easier than trying to chase Cheerios across the high chair. So um, I think maybe a little
I
bit
love
of
that. I
us.
love that, by the way. I love that. I think you like just the innovation of the kazoo. I was hoping you would go down that path. I remember that from
Oh
the book,
yeah,
and just the licking of the finger, and him almost like forcing the creativity, because I mean, you have to understand, Stacey, most parents, I don't want to say most, I want to speak on behalf of all of them. A lot of parents these days coddle their kids so much, and it's like there's so much coddling that takes place that it doesn't allow for creativity or quote unquote failure to exist, where you really positioned Nick
yeah,
to allow some of that, to you raise him in an environment where some of that creativity could exist. And I think that's what is most admirable for me as a parent. And I can't speak on behalf of Andrew, but both of us raising kids, it's like to create and raise a kid in that environment. So I just want to speak to
Yeah.
that. Sorry to cut you off on that, but
Well, I was going to double click on that because I think that, so often, exactly, I see fully enabled, normal bodied individuals going about their lives, and they're raising these kids. And the parents are doing so much for them, right? They're doing everything for their kids. We're walking to the baseball field the other day, and parents are carrying their baseball bag, and the kids running around. I'm like, no, like give the bag to the kid. Like the kid's got to do the, some work here, right? And it's like there's kind of a philosophy that we try to practice. I don't know that we're 100% great at it, but it seems like you did it, whether consciously or not. But it's like, if they are capable of doing it, right, then they should do it themselves. And
absolutely.
you are pushing him for this independence when you could have pushed him basically to be codependent with you. There's an alternate reality where had you coddled him, he's still living at home and playing the victim instead of being the victor that he is. And so, that's just an incredible, way that you've pushed him to force him into situations to have to grow. And I just think that's incredible.
Thank you. So when we decided to have children, when we decided to have a family, the goal was to raise them, with morals and manners and to become productive citizens of society. Okay. So we just gave them tools and willed them to grow. We watered them. And, you raise them up to grow, to be independent and to go out and, be creative souls, serve the world that you're in.
Yeah.
So
go ahead. Sorry, finish that thought. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
The only way you learn to do something is you do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I'm curious, what was it like for your other kids, like having Nick as a brother?
Okay. Yeah, I loved in the book just like how you described them all together and like just please, this is a great question, Andrew. It's really great. I want to hear this.
Mercy. They gave him no mercy.
That's great.
They didn't even from the first time they saw him, they just saw their little brother. They didn't see the physical difference. Like even when we pointed it out, and they're like, okay. My other son offered to, oh, Mom, I'll give him my legs. Don't worry. Very accepting, very loving. And they didn't have like a preconceived notion like, oh my God, this child is different and we have to treat him different. They didn't have that. That's basically another reason why we didn't even let them in on that there was issues with the pregnancy. Mm-hmm. Okay. I lost track of thought. So nope, they just treated Nick like one of the gang. They beat up on him and they wouldn't let him win. He had to fight for everything that he got or he did. Okay. It wasn't easy. But when you do something long enough, you become very good at it. So maybe where he struggled and overcame, and then more struggles, failures you overcome, it just became second nature to him. It just created the person that he is.